perfect for today. I hope you do, for new members and for hopefully in your life. Today's lesson is entitled, Pick Up on Aisle 5. Now when you hear that, like there's a pickup on aisle 5, what do you usually think of?
A mess.
A mess, yes, definitely. And somebody's going to have to go clean it up.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for the janitors at Lorraine this week because Aiden went to school and he vomited. I'm trying to think of the nicest word. Threw up, that's what I was going to say. So anyway, he threw up, and the lady that called me said, Mr. Potter, Aiden, whoever I'm talking about, you know. Aiden threw up, and he threw up a lot. And I came, and it was like both the women in the office, one of them was the one that called me, both of them were kind of like sheepish when they told me, said, he really threw up. And so I asked Aiden when I picked him up, and he picked up, he said he threw up not only this morning's breakfast, but last night's supper. Anyway, nice thought, huh?
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I thought you'd like to do that.
So how's he doing now?
He's doing great.
No,
he
he
did
didn't
great
want
that
to go
day.
to school. The rest of the story is he did not want to go to
He
school.
works himself up
So he
sometimes.
worked
I don't-
himself up, and when he got to school, he said, I knew I was going to do this, and so I didn't
Okay,
want to throw up
all
in
right.
my
He
classroom
just
on the
threw up.
carpet, so I went out in the hallway.
So, anyway, on aisle
He was fine the minute he got home.
5, there is a pickup on aisle 5, though, for you. And it's not the same pickup we were just talking about. Because, you know, sometimes we think of that, like you said, of a mess. And it's cleanup when you have to pick up something on a certain place or something when they say over the store. But it's not always true, if you think about it. There is a pickup for you, though, on aisle 5. And God's blessings are what we're going to talk about this morning. And that's what's there for you to pick up on aisle 5 or whatever aisle you're on, actually. But if you think about it, you know, how often do we do those types of things? We think of something, when we hear something, we think of something automatically that comes to the forefront of our mind. Now, that isn't necessarily the truth of the matter, though, is it? So we can think of different things as far as how we interpret things when they come to us in life. And this is what Charles Fillmore says about the power of blessings. He says, blessings impart the quickening spiritual power that produces growth and increase. It is the power of multiplication. So when we think of our blessings, usually, what do we think about? We usually think about a material blessing or something. But it's more than that, and we have to think of it that way, because when we are blessed, it is, like Fillmore said, it's a power of multiplication. We have the opportunity, after receiving a blessing, to receive more blessings, because we have to continue to open ourselves up to blessings. If we don't, then we're going to just say, you know, that's the end of it, God, I've had enough. And what's kind of that attitude? We do it kind of without thinking about it, really. I mean, you know, what do we say when something bad happens? Oh, shucks, or something, whatever. Then something else happens, right? Something else bad happens. What do we say? Sometimes it's mainly from the South. Oh, bad things happen in threes, so we're expecting another bad thing. It's weird when you think about it, but that's the human condition in different people. Now, the human condition is different than human nature, okay? We'll go over that here in a minute. But when we think about that, sometimes we put ourselves in a losing position. We don't have to put ourselves in the losing position. Whatever it is in our psyche or whatever, we block ourselves a lot of times in life from receiving our blessings. And we have to quit doing that. We have to just not allow that to happen. All of us here today, I know I can look at everybody's face here today wants to see a successful church like Reverend Francie was talking about earlier. Well, to have a successful church, what do we have to do? We have to be open to our blessings to allow other people to come in. And so to allow other people to come in, we have to share that with them, don't we? We have to share the blessings that you're receiving. Don't even say come to this church. Just when you mention, say, oh man, I received this blessing. I received the blessing of finally, my name was in there. It was in there. It was really true. It was in there. It was in the drawing. And I finally won the drawing. And so, you know, don't even mention the church until they ask. Because they'll want to ask. People, when they hear about a blessing, they'll do one of two things. They'll either ask you how you received it or what you did to receive it, because they want it, which is the true answer. Or, if you're, sometimes even if you're closer to somebody, they'll say, oh, I'm jealous of that person. Don't say in your mind, I'm jealous. What did she get? And I didn't. You know? We got to quit that stuff. We don't want to dampen anybody else's good, because when we dampen somebody else's good, we dampen our own good from receiving. So when was the last time you accepted a blessing? You don't have to answer that out loud, but I hope it was recent. Maybe even this morning. Maybe coming in. I know Francie said some things on the way to church here this morning about how she was receiving, how she was being blessed by around there. And JW the other day, I don't know where we're going. We're going either to or from the church, I think. And JW said, well, I'm looking out here and seeing all these beautiful things on the way. Oh, is it school? Yeah. And as if we haven't done that. It's the same route we take every morning for years. So that's great, though. He's doing that and recognizing that, you know. You have to recognize those things. And I'm very guilty of this as far as looking, stop and smelling the roses, the old saying. I'm very guilty of that, but I've gotten better over the years. You know, we have to be cognizant of what's going on around us and the beauty around us. Or else what's going to happen? We're going to not like it or abuse it or not take care of it, and it's going to go to pot, right? It will. It will. It's kind of like, you know, I'm not a big climate activist, I'll tell you that right now, but I am aware of the situation, and I don't want it to be a point where we have to do, this is what we have to do right now, you know, an emergency. So we have to take care of everything. Our plan is just like your own property. If you have a house or something, you don't just let it go to pot. You take care of it. You make sure that it's up to date and things, if you can, right? That's what we have to do. We have to accept those blessings that we have, because when we, you know, update our house or whatever, we are admitting that this house is a blessing to us and we appreciate it and we're going to keep it up to date. So hopefully you received a blessing. But the reason that this whole lesson came about was this vision I heard from this minister, or I heard from about a minister that had this vision. And he had a vision. He was a minister for a long, long time. I'll tell you who he was later, maybe. Anyway, he had this vision for a long time. He was telling his son, he said, I had this vision that I went to heaven. St. Peter met me and took me through this whole big, huge warehouse with a bunch of boxes on tall shelves, boxes on every shelf, just a ton of them. And they all, you know, I was going through there because he's leading me through, and I said, what are all these boxes and why are we going through this whole warehouse? And St. Peter said, those are all the blessings for each individual that didn't pick them up. And there was a ton of them. And I totally agree with that vision. There's a ton of blessings, even in my life. And I'm not saying it to death, oh, I should have done that, I should have done this. I'm saying it because you have to open them up. They're there. And they're waiting for you only. That box had your name on it, not anybody else's. So when we go through that warehouse, or whenever, not after you're dead, not going to help you then. These are physical blessings. So when you go through that warehouse in your mind, you can envision yourself opening up your box and getting all the blessings that you deserve. Because God just keeps putting them in there. Keep putting them in there. And that thing can be real big, real full at times. You don't need it to be full. You need it to be, because why does God bless you? Think about this for a minute. Why does God bless you in the first place?
Because
God,
He loves us.
huh?
Because He loves us.
He loves us. Very true. You want to answer something? You have your hand all the way up all the time, so I'm going to have to call her. She had that operation, so she has that way. Anyway, God blesses us because definitely God loves us beyond measure, just like any parent would. But also because I forgot my main point, that that is what God does. God. Oh, I'm sorry. Here I got it. Thank you, because it was important. God blesses us because when you receive that blessing, He's got more in store for you. You have to live from that blessing so you can continue to grow spiritually. How could I forget that? Anyway, that's what you do. That's the whole spiritual transition up to everything. That's how, I'm going to say it, regeneration works.
Love.
I was telling Jim earlier that he had some cancer earlier, a year or two ago?
It was 5.
But it's been that long?
Yeah.
Wow. Anyway, we're great. I'm glad he's great. He had it, and he had to have a procedure that is very invasive and painful. So, but the University of Texas, hook 'em horns. They have a huge medical center there. And anyway, they came up with this pill that takes care of that without doing anything. It's been 100% effective.
Wow, that's great.
Of course, what do we have to do? In the United States, we have to go through the FDA, and it takes forever. But that's okay. As far as getting on a test trial there, you want to be on 100%, don't you?
Yes.
So we can come up with these new blessings if we allow ourselves to be open to them. And that's one thing I love about scientists and researchers, because I think it was Einstein. No, it was who invented the light bulb? Graham
Edison.
Edison. Whoever, huh?
Alexander Graham Bell.
Graham Bell. Or whoever it was. No, that's the telephone. Anyway, the light bulb.
Edison.
They asked him. Thomas Edison. Thank you. Good news. So Thomas Edison was asked one time, after he finally invented the light bulb. Of course, he didn't get any people asking him this before, but he said, they said, well, how many times did you have to figure this out? He said, oh, thousands of times. He said, well, what did you feel like after that? He said, that's one closer to me getting to the one that works.
Right.
Instead of looking at those thousands of times, just think about that. One time worked, but thousands of times where no, not going to work.
Right.
A lot of people do what? They get discouraged and they quit. Right, they give up. We don't need to do that, especially in our spirituality. God has these blessings for you, but if we neglect them and we don't accept them, then we are the ones that are choosing not to have them benefit our lives. And then, I think I've accepted all my blessings, and I think I'm doing everything God wants me to, and I'm still not getting the blessing I asked for. Well, the reason is because we're not doing it exactly how we need to do it. And that's okay. Change course. We need to shift a little bit. It may be just a minute little deal. Might need to go to work a different way one morning. It might be very simple, very simple. So he had that vision of all those blessings being stored up there for no reason. But we go to extremes sometimes in our human existence. We go to extremes sometimes. We go to, look at everybody who talks about the talking heads on politics says what? We're more divisive than we've ever been. Well, I don't know if that's true or not. It sounds like it if you get into it and listen to it because they're so mean to each other, right? But we don't have to be. And especially in unity, it's kind of weird to me how a lot of people, and not a lot, there has been a few in the past, there may not be any more today, but there's been a few in the past that get on their whichever bandwagon, doesn't make a difference which one, and go crazy on the other one. If we recognize the truth of everybody being a spiritual being, then we can't do that.
Right.
We're not recognizing the spiritual being in another if we're saying all sorts of nasty things about it.
Right.
We just aren't at that moment. And there's no need to do it. It doesn't help you. It might get you angry, in fact, which it usually does when you say something like that. So if it gets you angry, then is that where you want to be? That's what you're choosing to do at the time. So we don't have to do that. And we go to the extreme sometimes. You don't see that as much sometimes, thinking that everything's perfect and then we're going to continue, which everything can be perfect. But you have to continue down the path of growth to keep it that way. There's not, regrettably, and I've used this example before, there's not a level that you get to. There's not a top of the mountain that you get to, and there's not be more mountain. And that sounds like, well, that's discouraging. No, it's not. It's more benefits for you. Because I've used this example a lot, is in a business, and they'll teach you this in business school anywhere. A business has a life. It goes, if it's got a product or whatever, it's successful, it's going up. It's making more profits, doing good, doing good. And then there's a plateau. There's a plateau all businesses get to at some point. And they either have to reinvent themselves to continue on the upward growth, or else they're going to start going down. That's just the life of a business. How many mousetraps did you buy this week?
None.
None? Probably everybody said none.
They have cats.
That one slapper? Huh?
They have
Well,
cats.
but if you didn't buy any, it used to be a time in life where people would buy a lot because it had mice, a lot of mice. Think about brooms. Oh, everything, a lot of things you can think about. But what has has just lived its course. And either that company remade itself or it went under. That's just the way it happens. So we have to think about what we are doing in our spiritual life to continue to be on spiritual growth, because it's important. The human condition versus human nature. And when you say versus, what does that usually think? What do you usually think? You usually think a winner or a loser, right? They don't have to be. They don't have to be. It doesn't have to be a winner or a loser. I'm very competitive. I like football. I like a lot of sports. But, and I want my team to win, obviously. But they're not going to win all of them. In fact, this year, I'm going to confess, I'm a Miami Dolphin NFL football fan, and they're predicted to be the worst team in the league because they totally rebuilt their team. And by the preseason, they probably will be. But I'm still going to be a fan. Okay? It doesn't mean I'm not going to be a fan of their team. So, when we think about that's the human condition. That's that team's condition at this moment. But if you'll remember, in the 90s, if you're not a football fan, I'm sorry. If you remember in the 90s, the Dallas Cowboys were in the same position when they brought in a new coach, Jimmy Johnson, and he tore down the whole team. Started with all new players, and they were terrible. I think they won one game, 1-15 the first season. But then, what are they called now after that in the 90s? The team of the 90s. They won 2 or 3 Super Bowls because they worked and they knew that they weren't going to be at the bottom. They looked forward to continuing to improve, and they did. And they became the best team in the league in the 90s. So there's different ways to look at things, and you can look at them differently. But all that said, both those things are the human condition. Which, in our spiritual life, what does that mean? Well, wherever you're at in your spiritual life, that's your condition right now. Now, human nature is always good. Because human nature is what our connection to God, our connection to our recognition of our spirit is. Human nature is always good. So when we're receiving those blessings, when we're taking those blessings out of the box, if there's some in there that we haven't picked up yet, which there are for all of us, then we can continue to go on this path and be on this, live our true nature is to be good, to accept good, to give good. And how do we change that? Well, if you're not there right now, say, well, I think I've been doing everything right. It's the very simple 3 things. Thoughts, words, and actions. In our human condition, we have to change those to be living in our human nature. We have to change them. We have to live good, better, best, if you want to. If that's what you want to classify it as. Okay? When people make mistakes, what do? Depends on how close they are to us, I suppose, but what do? We can either blame them or get mad about it, which, if they're close to us, our kids and things, sometimes we do get mad, don't we? And I'm not saying that you're a terrible person for doing that. Lord knows I do. But we have to recognize at the end of the day what we're getting mad at. What are we getting mad at when let's say our kids do something wrong? What are we getting mad at? We're getting mad that they didn't accept or do their good at that time, right? We didn't think that they did the best for themselves at that time. And it hurts us. We don't need to be hurt. We need to just be the teacher that we are, that we can be, and tell them, let them know why. And I'm working on it. I admit it. Let them know why. That this can be better for you if you can this will bring God's blessings to you. Now, Jesse, I thought you were going to put a picture of him up there, but that's okay. I figured you weren't when you had all these slides. Jesse, most of you know my son Jesse, and our son Jesse. And most of you know he's had some problems. Well, I was going to invite him here this week, as Reverend Francie told me that Maria was going to be here, and Maria and him are pretty close. And so I was wanting to look forward to that reunion, because Jesse loves Maria, and Maria loves Jesse. And so early, though, this week, he got picked up, and he's back in jail. And so right now, what do? As far as parents or people? Instead of saying like Sandy was saying earlier, go, oh, not again. We have to take a breath and say, what is mine to do? And I think most people in here, the only thing to do is to pray and to pray for him. See him in a good light. See him where he isn't making the wrong choices or whatever. I don't even like to use the wrong. Making choices that don't benefit him. Don't let him have God's blessings in his life. Okay? We have to look at that and say, because, you know, if you look at it right now, you say, oh, that's pretty damn bleak, you know, or we'll probably go back to prison. And it's okay, I'm going to get on spiel here for a second. It's not right to send people. I know you weren't doing anything. I just looked at you at the moment. You got emotional, sorry. Anyway, you could look at the situation and say, well, it's pretty bleak because he's going to probably go back to prison for a long time. But what I was going to say was, that doesn't rehabilitate a single person. It doesn't help a single person. I don't know of anybody that came out of prison and said, oh boy, I'm glad I went there. That sure did help me in life. Now, some of them are strong enough to stop doing what they got there for, which is great. Thank God for that. But, you know, as this is just my spiel, sorry. We have to look for ways, because this is one of the things I want to impart on you today. It's so important for us to receive our blessings and to live from a natural state to be a blessing and to receive our blessings, because that brings other people into saying, what do they have? They seem like life's going for them. What's going on there? And people will ask you, without confronting someone or anything, they'll ask you. And then you'll say, well, this stuff's working or something. But anyway, you don't need to do that. But just say, I am in tune with my spiritual nature, and I am learning more and more when I go to Unity and try to help myself through myself learning and others around me to go forth and be the light of the world like God directed us to do. So we want to bless him and let him know that he is not alone, because that's where we get into this, idea of thinking that we're alone. That's where we usually get into a lot of problems. And the other major one is self-worth. You know, a lot of times the human condition says, I'm not worthy of God's blessings. And that is a big fat lie. Quit telling yourself that if you ever tell yourself that. Quit doing that. That is a fat lie. You are worthy of God's blessings. You are worthy of God's blessings. You're worthy of anything that you want in this world, unless it hurts somebody else. So, we have to think about how we can uplift ourselves, and by doing that, we're uplifting others. So if you want to uplift others, what do you need to do? Uplift yourself. What is within you expresses outside of you. And that's true. You know, whatever, this is the old kind of harsh lesson of unity, is whatever is going on in our life right now, we have outpictured that somehow through our inner thoughts. And so you might say, well, that's kind of rough. I mean, I don't like this happening in my life, but okay, well, just stop yourself right now and think to yourself how you can have that change. Okay? You know, and there's always a way to change it. First of all, we have to change our thoughts about that situation, okay? And I'm not saying, because I've said this many times too, is I'm not saying if you're a battered spouse and you to stay in the situation and think different about it. You know, situations change when you start thinking different about the situation, and then the people around you, if they're willing, start thinking about the situation. Then what happens? The situation changes. So if we want the situation to change, we have to think about it differently. Because what's going on outside of us is something we have envisioned inside of us at some point. This is what Charles Fillmore says about the blessedness of God. The joy that comes from God to those whose thoughts are stayed on him, everlasting joy shall be unto them. Isaiah 61:7. And that's all that's saying is exactly what I've been saying. We have to stay focused. We have to stay focused on what we are thinking, and that just, the thoughts are so important because that's what translates into the words and the actions. Because we're not going to have a word or an action without a thought. Okay? So that's why, unity, by some critics would say, well, you can't just think things away. Well, yeah, you can, but it may not be immediate. So it's not something that, we in Unity just think only thoughts will take care of it, but we know that after the thoughts come words and actions. Okay? It's the old joke that, God, why didn't you let me win the lottery this week? And God says, well, you got to go buy a ticket. And so if you don't do the action afterwards, and don't go out and buy a ticket and say, God told you that you're going to win the lottery. I'm not telling you that. But anyway, you have to know what we're talking about. Stay on that path. Because God only wants good for you. Only good. And that's where the Christian teaching sometimes gets construed into something that isn't this. If God only wants good for you, we don't have a God sitting on a throne in heaven, some other place, in the sky or wherever, saying, well, you've done wrong. I smite you, I smite you, I smite you, right? That doesn't happen. Okay? I've said numerous times, if that were to be the case, God kill me right now with a lightning bolt or whatever. And I haven't been struck yet. And God's strong enough to do that, I think. But anyway. So we can't let ourselves get caught up in that. God only wants good for you. He, she, your spirit, the universe only wants good for you. And so we need to live in that good. So from Psalms 21, I want to tell you this. It says, surely you have granted him unending blessings and made him glad with the joy of your presence. So that's what translated from this psalmist that wrote this. Because the Psalms, the book of Psalms is a bunch of songs, That's what the Psalms means. Anyway, so the psalmist who wrote this understood that we are glad, or God is glad with your presence. So it's just like going back to the Father. I don't know. Now I'm not saying there aren't, but there are some, I'm going to say weirdos out there as far as fathers. But I don't know of any father that's normal that isn't happy to be around their child. So they might get mad at them every once in a while, but so that's just part of it. Okay? So this is what it's saying. The psalmist there was saying that God is pleased with you and what you do. But blasphemy, which everybody probably knows what that is, taking the Lord's name in vain, that's what the definition is though when we live life without God in our conscious awareness. So that doesn't mean that you go around praying all the time, that you're a zealot necessarily for getting, to save people or whatever. But it does mean that when we make decisions in life, when we get cut off, like I said, I'm working on myself. So when we get cut off in the driving, we're not cussing the person out. Okay, we just recognize our own feelings and what they're for. Okay, Francie does a great job. I've told you that before. Does a great job when that happens because she can see me about ready to cuss and she'll say, "Bless them on their way so they can make it safe where they're going." She's fast about it too. I can't get the cuss words out. So that's good.
Not always.
Yeah, well, not always. Thanks. Yeah. Anyway, allowing yourself to enjoy life, to receive blessings, is the only way we improve the human condition and live human nature. And that's what I said earlier. So, in order to live our natural self, we have to just recognize the beauty around us, inside of us, and in other people. So, again, think the thoughts, speak the words, act the life of blessings that you were meant to be. I would, what I would like to have, maybe we should do that one day, I'm just talking out loud, thinking out loud, is for each of us to have a letter from God of all the blessings that we are and that we're going to be and that we can be. When we start this part of our existence.